On 25th of September 2022, the harmful effects of privatization in Pakistan and Chinese slavery on the economy. China is enslaving Pakistan, so Pakistan shouldn't sell its property to China. Since the internet revolution of the 21st century has made better service and connection more important, privatizing telecom companies has become a common way to reach this goal. State-owned companies worldwide, especially in the telecommunications industry, have grown from small to medium-sized local companies to global giants. Huawei, which used to be owned by the Chinese military, Norway's Nortel, China Mobile, Deustche Telekom or T-Mobile, which used to be the state-owned Bundespost, and Etisalat are just a few examples of successful investments in the international telecom sector by state-owned companies. So, it is interesting to think about why privatization has not helped Pakistan, whose telecom business has grown significantly in the past few years. The Pakistan Telecommunication Company Limited, PTCL, privatization story is like a business crime tale. In 2005, General Pervez Musharraf and Shaukat Aziz formed a government that was a mix of Musharraf and Aziz. They quickly privatized several large state-owned businesses, including PTCL, worth billions of dollars then. Employees of PTCL fought hard against the move because they were afraid it would lead to many layoffs. The cops beat tens of thousands of workers protesting until they were bloody and bruised. This story was on the front page of every newspaper for days. Laws against terrorists were used to charge all of the protesters at once. Even though the government and the new PTCL management could have dropped the criminal charges, they didn't. Instead, they put the workers through a very harsh criminal justice system. PTCL was not a sick unit like Pakistan International Airlines, PIA, and Pakistan Steel Mills. Still, the workers at the telecom company were forced to agree to harsh and unfair firings by a series of brutal crackdowns. Second, the way the company was given to UAE-based Etisalat, the top bidder of three companies, including China Mobile and Singapore's Singtel, was secretive and shady, so it should be looked into more. Contrary to the story told to the public at the time, which was that the deal had to involve foreign direct investment, most of the money came from Pakistani banks. This went against what government officials said, who said that getting money from outside the country would help the economy. The fact that the deal between the president of Pakistan and Etisalat is illegal is scary and exciting. Etisalat pulled out of the agreement that would have given them 26% of the company's shares after the auction in June 2005. This would have given it a majority of 5 votes to 4 on the board of directors. So, it lost the 10% deposit money it had put down, and the privatization process ended without the management being handed over, as the first deal had said it should. On March 16, 2006, a new deal was made with Etisalat, and no further bids were taken. The second deal was made without the other 2 people participating in the auction in June 2005. This was done sneakily. This made the whole process unclean, and legal and moral questions could be asked. The deal was so one-sided that it meant accepting Etisalat's demands that weren't part of the original agreement. For example, it meant giving Etisalat the right to sell PTCL's assets and properties all over the country, adding up to about 30 liters. This was against the auction's published terms and conditions. The deposit, which should have been lost when PTCL refused to sign the first agreement, was returned through a back door. Also, Etisalat's visiting technical experts were given a $50 million yearly bonus for 5 years, which was extended to 10 years. Fair-minded people would be worried and scared by how the government coddles Etisalat and tries to protect it too much. PTCL has only paid Pakistan $1.8 billion of the total $2.59 billion agreed upon after 17 years, which shows that the deal was not handled well. This is because too much was done to help Etisalat at the cost of the other 2 bidders. It has held back about $800 million because of a disagreement with the Pakistani government regarding overland transfers. There were also disagreements over the titles of some evacuee properties and those owned by the armed forces. However, the fact remains that the deal wouldn't have seemed so unfair to the government of Pakistan if the right to sell PTCL property hadn't been given away illegally in the second agreement. The public was led to think that a transparent auction would give PTCL the right to sell off properties provided to them illegally through the second agreement. However, this never happened. It is interesting to note that $800 million in 2005 would be worth about $1,213,767,537.12 in 2022. This amount is about the same as foreign investors have put into Pakistan's telecom business over the last 3 to 4 years. Instead of mindlessly privatizing a national symbol like PTCL through a questionable, unclear, and very unfavorable process, the government should look back at other risky moves that were made in the past. This could help improve digital services that are good enough to meet the challenges of the 21st century. Even though the National Telecommunication Corporation, NTC, in Pakistan takes care of keeping foreign operators from getting access to official government communications and sensitive data related to defense, countries like the US, the UK, and some in Western Europe are moving very carefully. For example, the US government has watched the Chinese telecom giant Huawei. The Biden administration is looking into its activities because of concerns that US cell towers using Huawei equipment could get sensitive information from military bases and missile silos. Huawei could send that information to China since the Chinese military started the company. While the UK and other Western allies of the US may have a legal or moral obligation to remove all of the Chinese company's equipment from core networks, developing countries like Pakistan may not have the same options and must remove all Chinese equipment. Expecting a country like Pakistan, which has a lot of problems and a lot of bureaucracy, to adopt all the new technologies overnight in a global telecom industry that is changing quickly is a tall order. But righting past wrongs like the PTCL mess can be a step toward making the telecom sector more fair and open. But since the Supreme Court recently rejected the case against PTCL's privatization, that idea is dead. This is because the Supreme Court gave the second agreement the status of a standalone agreement, which means that no court, not even the Supreme Court, can touch it.